Hi, everybody. It's Dr. Bob here at the Vitality Project. I want to take just a couple of minutes tonight. It's the end of a full day for me, and I want to speak from my heart. The work that I do every day is in addiction recovery, and I've met several clients today as well as groups today, and there's one common thread through all of that, and this is really coming from my experience today. This isn't a text out of a this out. I'm really coming to you just for a minute or two to share with you. I run into so much emotion around addiction and recovery, and it's completely understandable. The people that I work with that are family members of those that are either in active addiction or early out of it, they're hurt, they're depressed, they're angry, and understandably so. There are so many disappointments and so many betrayals of trust that go hand in hand with addiction. How could it be otherwise? So there's huge emotional reactivity around that. And there's the exact same thing mirrored in the lives of those that are themselves either in active addiction and or contemplating or active in early recovery. There's so much shame and self-blame, self-judgment, self-condemnation that goes hand in hand with this. And so people come to me. I just met with several clients this afternoon, and most of us don't know anything about addiction. I mean, we make assumptions, and we're understandably we lash out at those that are addicted. But I'm just fed up. I'm just fed up with the general attitude in our society, and also I really want to confront the ignorance that goes right into our families around addiction. We don't understand addiction. We don't understand early recovery. And can we please stop for a minute and begin to get educated about this? I don't for a second think that scientific information, medical information, psychological information about addiction is sufficient for recovery. I think you can read all the books in my library on addiction recovery. I'm a psychologist by background, and I've read as many books about the biology of addiction as I have about the psychological aspects of addiction. All of those books didn't keep me from getting addicted in midlife. They won't keep you from getting addicted right now. But what they will do is give you a leg up on the emotional turmoil that revolves around addiction and also in early recovery, and that absolutely leads to deaths of people. Because I'll tell you what, the number one trigger for relapse in early recovery is stress. And I'll go further. The number one stressor that psychology and biology agree on, the number one most stressful emotion in human beings is shame. And shame is where I hate myself for having been an addict. I hate myself. I don't hate the addiction. I hate myself. And that evokes in the brain a freeze response that will literally kill us. So please, please join me. Here at the Vitality Project, we have almost 300 educational snippets. They're all freely available. They're on YouTube. They're here at Facebook. And the whole emphasis there is to provide education that's simple to understand, harder to apply, because there's so much emotion that goes going around addiction. But please join me in being committed to educating yourself, first of all, educating loved ones, and take this out to communities, whether it's clubs or churches. There's so much shame, so much blame, so much castigation that goes on around addiction, and it's part of the problem. I think the enemy is addiction. I don't think the enemy is the addict. I don't think the enemy is the family member who's pissed off or hurt or hopeless about the addict. It's addiction that is the demon here. So let's get smart about addiction, and let's find a way to attack it at its roots. We can do that. I have a lot of hope for what can be done if we can change our attitudes towards addiction. I should correct that. Change our attitudes towards those that are addicted and those that are in early recovery. That we need to change. I am happy for us to be pissed off at hell at addiction. I think addiction is the devil. I really do. It takes away our personalities. It takes away our sense of right and wrong. It takes away our compassion. It takes away our capacity to empathize with others. It takes away our ability to look at the long-term consequences of current behavior. All of that gets erased in active addiction. If you've been addicted, I don't need to tell you this, because you know, and if you're in a relationship, that somebody's been addicted. I don't need to tell you because you know that too. That's what addiction does. So addiction is the devil. It erases who we are. And the goal in recovery, and certainly here at the Vitality Project, is can we please, first of all, stop the damned addiction? Can we stop that? And are there effective ways to address the addiction at its roots? But it's not enough to stop the addiction. Can we recover our lives that got lost to addiction? And I'm not talking just to people that are in recovery from addiction itself. I'm talking to all the loved ones. Everyone has been sucked into the vortex, the black hole that addiction is. Let's get our lives back, doggone it. I hope you can hear my passion. I should be exhausted. This is my 12th hour of work today, and I am tired, but I feel so deeply about this. I could weep, I could scream. There's so many feelings I have about this. I am so honored to be able to provide support, skillful, scientifically based support to the individuals, the couples, the groups that I meet with every day, including a day full today. I am so happy to provide education. You can see lights go on for people as soon as they realize that whatever I thought about addiction is bunk. I don't understand it. Honestly, when people can get sharp and smart and educated around addiction, and it doesn't take a semester of coursework, it takes just a few hours of spending some time with somebody who knows something about it, and I do. There's plenty of people that do. I do, for sure. I should. I've been studying this for 40 years. I should know a lot about this. Plus, I was addicted for 15 years. I know a lot about addiction, and so do a lot of other people. You want to find a good resource. The thing is that information, you can see people, the lights go on because people realize I've been operating in the dark. And when people find out what addiction does to our bodies and brains, there you have leverage for realizing I need to stop this shit because it's undermining my entire life. I mean, at a very deep level, there's no hope as long as I stay in addiction. The lights go on for people with that. Now, that's the beginning. That isn't the end. That's the beginning of the change that needs to come about. But people can change once they have enough information. And I'll tell you what happens in active addiction, and many of us have been on the receiving end of this, and probably all of us have been on the giving end of it, is that when we move too quickly towards judgment and then get stuck there, then there's no arm for the person to pull them out of the water, out of the quicksand. It's better, out of the quicksand that they're in with addiction. We have got to find some way to stay connected to our truth in terms of confronting addiction, but we need to also stay connected to our hearts in terms of compassion. I got a chance yesterday morning here at the Vitality Project to provide a podcast that was linked to a woman who's an incredible resource out of South Africa, Lindsay, who was talking about parenting during the time of COVID, and frankly, parenting during the time of addiction, because there's a lot of addiction that's been stirred by the incredible universal stress of COVID. And she said, parents, if they're like, for example, contemplating homeschooling, my daughter Amanda is going to be homeschooling her son, Owen, my grandson. And I know Amanda to know that she can do this. But what Lindsay was saying in our podcast is that parents need to remember that education starts from the heart. Well, I feel the very, very same thing about the work I do over the years as a therapist, as a counselor, as a coach, as an educator. It starts from the heart. So if we can find a way to strengthen and bolster our hearts along with our minds, but if we can communicate from the heart to the addict in our life that we want to help them, they need help, and we want to help them. And if we can find a way to do that and curb our instinct, which is to aggress, and rather speak from a place of vulnerability, like Brene Brown talks about, a place of heart, a place of vulnerability where we speak from our fear, we speak from our sorrow, rather than just only anger, 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 shame, 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 blame, blame, blame. That's a start. That's a start. So let me finish up. You guys have been seeing, if you've been watching me, you've been seeing that there's a banner underneath here. This Saturday, I'll be doing the first of a 2-part workshop series. It'll be 2 hours on Saturday from 9 to 11 Pacific time. I want you to come join me. I'm going to be introducing in the most condensed way I've been able to develop over the last 10 years of hundreds, if not thousands, of presentations on addiction. It's what I do day in, day out, is I want to present the most condensed information I can for us to understand what addiction does to the brain and the body in the life of the addicted individual. And then I want to look at how that directly impacts relationships, whether it's of partners or of parents and their children, employers, employees. I want to talk about that very clear-eyed. I want to get very clear about that. This is part one. And part two, which will be in August, in exactly a month, I want to present part two, which will be talking about effective ways of responding to addiction, where you draw a line in the sand, but you do that without shaming the addict. In other words, you respond with compassion and clear boundaries, but that's the formula that will help. And I want to provide ways of addressing the shame and stigma that we're all a part of. And I want to provide a leg up. And I think that the information I'll be providing this Saturday is a good start. So if you have any hankering for this, I would like you to join me. And you should have hankering for this, because 2/3 of us in this country have somebody in our family who's addicted. And 2/3 of us won't talk to anybody outside of our family about the addiction. Why? Because there's so flippin' much shame and stigma. So please come join me. There'll be information that'll be provided beforehand. All you need to do is sign up. Pay the $10. I'll send you your $10 worth before the workshop, you guys. And the workshop will be cake. I'll be presenting for 2 hours. There'll be interactive assignments. You won't be asked to reveal anything private about yourself, but you will be working on yourself during the workshop. And then we'll follow up with more resources, as well as this second workshop in August. So I really want you to consider that. I hope you get some sense of my passion for what I'm talking about. Deep breath. Thank you for joining me tonight here at the Vitality Project. I appreciate you joining me. We have daily posts. You may be well aware of them. If you're not, they're online. They're available every day on Facebook and YouTube. They're free. All right. So let's get educated together and let's make a difference. Okay. We can do this, you guys. All right. Be well. Have a good evening. Stay safe. And come join me these next days in our posts at the Vitality Project. And more to the point, please do come join me at this workshop. It'll be well worth your time and money, I guarantee you. Blessings to you. Have a good evening.